2090 is authorizing the Commissioner of Insurance to set the amount of certain fees. If you will remember correctly, there was a cap of $30 on some filings and $100 on prepay on adjusters, and this would allow the commissioner to lower those if she deemed necessary, but it would establish a cap. I also have an amendment to place that in the Kansas Register. So I would move that amendment. Fag seconds. Any discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor on the amendment say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries on the amendment. What's the pleasure of the Committee on the Bill? Senator Gossage.
Mr. Chair, I move that we pass out House Bill 2090 as amended. Favorably.
Dietrich seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Okay, House Bill 2093 was discontinuing payments to certain group-funded insurance pools, refunding existing balances thereof, and abolishing such funds and establishing the group-funded pool. This is identical to the Senate bill that we passed unanimously. I have an amendment to place this on the Kansas Register. I'll move that amendment. Is there a second? Senator Fagg. Any discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Amendment is adopted. What's the pleasure of the committee on the base bill? Senator Gossage.
Mr. Chair, I move we pass Senate Bill 2093 favorably for passage as amended.
Is there a second? Senator Cluse seconds. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. House Bill 2093 is on its way to the floor. Okay, House Bill 2094, specifying certain requirements necessary to demonstrate fiscal soundness for health maintenance organizations and Medicare provider organizations applying for the certificates of authority. Once again, it's an identical bill to what we passed in the Senate. It passed both the House and the Senate by wide margins. I have an amendment to place that on the Kansas Registry, and I'll move that amendment. Gossage seconds. Any discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. What's the committee's pleasure on the base bill, House Bill 2094? Senator Cluse.
I move that we pass it out favorably.
As amended. Is there a second? Senator Fagg seconds. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. House Bill 2094 is on its way to the floor. Okay, House Bill 2096, requiring certain premium taxes to be paid 90 days after each calendar year and basing the premium tax upon the gross premiums collected for the previous calendar year. This was the bill requiring that insurance agents remit premiums collected to the insurance company. Passed wide margins in the Senate, wide margins in the House. I do have an amendment to place it in the Register, and I would move that amendment. Is there a second? Senator Dietrich seconds. Any discussion on the amendment? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. What's the committee's pleasure on the base bill as amended? Senator Cluse.
Favorably as amended.
Is there a second? Senator Gossage seconds. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. House Bill 2096 is on its way to the floor. Okay, House Bill 2097 was removing the requirement of documented written demand for premiums as part of a prima facie case against agents or brokers who fail to pay premium. Once again, identical bill to the Senate bill, which passed by a very large margin. I think this was actually possibly on the consent calendar in the House and passed by a wide margin also. I do have an amendment to place this in the Kansas Register. And I would move that amendment. Senator Fagg seconds. Any discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. What's the committee's pleasure on the base bill of 2097? Senator Warren.
Mr. Chair, I just have a quick question, if I might. What was the mirror Senate bill number?
Senate Bill 15.
15, thank you.
Any further discussion on the? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. We didn't have a motion on that? Well, am I running a little too quick for myself? All right. Is there a motion on House Bill 2097? Senator Fagg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would move that we move out HB 2097 favorably as amended.
Is there a second? Senator Clue seconds. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. House Bill 2097 is on its way to the floor. Okay, House Bill 2098, adding certain legal entities to the definition of person, thereby making such entities subject to the penalties for violations of insurance law. Once again, I have an amendment to place this in the register, and I would move that amendment. Senator Gossage seconds. Any discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. What's the committee's pleasure on House Bill 2098? Senator Cluse. Senator Warren seconds. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. House Bill 2098 is on its way to the floor. Okay, and then the most riveting bill every year, the risk-based capital date change bill, House Bill 2100. Senate bill was identical, passed unanimously. This passed unanimously in the House. I have an amendment to change it to the Kansas Register, and I would move that amendment. Senator Warren seconds. Any discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. What's the committee's pleasure on House Bill 2100? Senator Dietrich.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that we pass out House Bill 2100 favorably as amended.
Okay. And Senator Warren seconds. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Okay, House Bill 2198, providing membership affiliation in the Kansas Police and Retirement System for certain law enforcement officers and employees of the Kansas Department of Wildlife and Parks. Does anybody need a refresher on this? Senator Warren?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Could we have a bill brief on that real quickly?
Eileen, can you do that for us?
House Bill 2198 provides that on July 1st of this year, the Kansas Department of Wildlife and Parks shall be an eligible employer and shall affiliate with the Kansas Police and Firemen's Retirement System for membership in such system of officers and employees of the KDWP who have successfully completed the required course of instruction for law enforcement officers approved by the Kansas Law Enforcement Training Center and are certified as a full-time police officer or law enforcement officer and who are employed in the Parks, Public Lands, or Law Enforcement Division. So the KDWP shall pay the required KP&F employer contributions, and the Division of Budget and the governor shall include in the budget request for appropriations the amount required to satisfy the employer obligation as certified by the Board of Trustees of the system, and shall present the same to the legislature for allowance and appropriation. Each officer and employee who is employed by the KDWP on or after the entry date shall become a member of KP&F. The determination of all benefits shall be computed upon the basis of credited service under KP&F statutes, but shall only include participating service on and after the entry date. Any benefits earned prior to July 1st, 2023 shall be determined pursuant to CAPERS statutes. Any vested retirement benefit under CAPERS and who terminates employment before attaining a vested retirement under KP&F may have such service credited for purposes of computing retirement benefits pursuant to CAPERS, for members who are employed in a CAPERS position prior to July 1st of 1993, or who were in their waiting period on July 1st, 1993, the employer shall certify to the system the number of sick and annual leave hours each such member has at the time of transfer to KP&F. Upon retirement from CAPERS, such members may include such leave not to exceed the amount certified in determining the member's final average salary. Members under the bill are required to make the KP&F employee contribution of 7.15%, and the bill would become effective upon publication in the statute book. And the House Committee of the Whole passed the bill on a vote of 118-3 on February 23rd.
118-3, is that what you said? Perfect, okay. Any other further discussion on House Bill 2198? Senator Warren?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There was mention of an appropriation needed. Do we have a fiscal note on any of this?
Actually, on this particular bill, there is not an appropriation needed because it is paid for through a
the
funded agency, so there is no SGF.
Okay, great, thank you.
Senator Pittman?
Mr. Chair, I have an amendment here.
Okay.
We've done it many times. I pretty much know where it's going to go, but I feel compelled to offer it up. We know that our correction officers are out there, and they're a critical piece of our law enforcement infrastructure. They deal with dangerous situations 24 hours a day when they're inside. They often face a lot of challenges, very, very similar to officers, if not more strenuous when you think about the constant stress on them and their families out in the community, what with the prisoners and inmates often having connections outside and putting pressure on folks outside of the system as well. You know, we've talked about this many times when we had this bill as a correction officer bill. We also know that the Parks and Wildlife wanted to be on that one as well. So I think it's only appropriate that we at least consider putting the corrections officers into this KP&F fund. And that's what I have amendment sitting right in front of each of our members here, what that would do. I feel like our correction officers deserve this. We need to do something better for them. And they certainly fulfill a critical role in law enforcement, like I mentioned before. So I'm going to move my amendment.
Okay. Committee, is there a second on the Pittman amendment? Senator Holscher, now discussion. Senator Pittman, under your amendment, you're pulling in Department of Corrections officers as defined on the second page, correct? Okay, and so that comes out of SGF, and do you have a fiscal note on it?
There have been approximations. I don't have a defined fiscal note. We can get that, but I think it's, last time I looked, it was somewhere in the 10 to 20 million range.
10 to 20 million?
Yes, sir.
Any other discussion on the amendment? Senator Gossage, Warren? I've got Senator Gossage raising her hand pointing at you.
Well, I saw Senator Warren already. I saw Senator Warren already had her hand up, so I was going to defer to her. But I would just say that I feel like, you know, we look at this balloon amendment, and I feel like they deserve their own bill. And where we can look at the fiscal note, we can review how many officers we're talking about here. There's a much greater discussion, but I appreciate the intention of the senator. So I would be voting no on this amendment.
Senator Warren?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was going to say just about the same thing, that I would like to hear more testimony about this particular proposal, especially the SGF impact and how it would impact these employees, and it does deserve some more attention. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Olson?
Almost could say ditto, but yes, I mean, I would love to have the hearing. I think there's probably, most of the people deserve, but make sure the right people are put in and what the cost is. So we should probably have it on bill and work through the process.
Okay. Any further discussion on the amendment? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no? No. Okay, amendment fails. What is the committee's pleasure on House Bill 2198? Senator Fagg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to make a few comments on this again. There's no question we all want to do the right thing for the employees and the taxpayers. Just to remind everybody of the $9.8 billion total unfunded liabilities, the second highest in 20 years. Our problem has come from 25 years of paying less than we should have in the KPERS fund. So I think in the last couple of years, we have tried to do with $500 million and a little over $1 billion, we've tried to do the right thing. And what I would say to you today is, where would we be today if we hadn't done that in the last 2 years and that kind of number? So enhancements at this time, in my opinion, is not fiscally responsible until we get a good handle on the unfunded liabilities of the total program. And we should not be doing enhancements while we need to review this. So with that, that's kind of my thoughts. The other thing is that there's $6 million that we're talking about when you move over. As we move over, that leaves that $6 million in the regular KPERS bucket to be maintained. So I got a little problem with that. So thank you.
Appreciate those comments. Jared, could you give us, or Alan, I got the A and the B team here this morning. I think we had testimony that actuarially we were talking decimals on this.
For these 160, that's right, it is out two decimal points in terms of that anticipated employer contribution.
Doesn't have any actuarial effect on the fund.
If I may, the issue, the $6 million of that unfunded actuarial liability for those 160 officers would remain in KPERS, so that would still be there, but it's of the larger KPERS state school unfunded liability, which is considerable.
Okay, thank you. Senator Olson and then Senator Warren. Did you have additional discussion? Okay. Senator Olson for a motion on House Bill 2198.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that we pass House Bill 2198 favorable for passage.
For a second. Senator Hosher. Discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree with Senator Fagg on our concerns about this unfunded liability. However, after doing a lot of research on this particular bill, the fact that this is a rare situation in which this is a department that they will be funding this when they move over, it's only the certified officers that would be moving over. And though I was reluctant initially, my only concern was that the $6 million that would be left, and in the big scheme of things, they are certified officers like our police officers, and I understand that having visited with KPERS felt that this would be the best place for them with the other officers. So I am in favor of this amendment as it stands.
Okay. Senator Fagg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One thing I might add to this, when you talk 160 officers and $6 million, divide that per officer, leaving that in the old regular KPERS program for all the teachers and everybody. So just want to throw that in there. Thank you.
Any other discussion on the bill? Senator Olson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Kind of follow up what Senator Gossage says. These are law enforcement officers. They're out there protecting and serving. They deserve this opportunity. Since I've been in the Senate, we've been working on KPERS. I think you can contest to that. We've done from the cash balance plan to fund a lot of excess money. It's going to be a struggle for a while to get KPERS back on track, but these people are duly owed this, and us as legislators need to do the right thing. So, thank you.
Additional discussion on 2198. Okay, we have a motion and a second, so all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no?
No.
Okay, do you wish to be recorded? Okay. House Bill 2198 passes and it's headed to the floor. Okay. We might as well keep moving. House Bill 2196 was expanding the drop program to members of the Police and Firemen Retirement System members. Does anybody need a briefing on that one? Senator Warren?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Not a briefing, just remind me, is this paid out of SGF or it's paid out of something else?
Help me, Alan, but if I remember correctly, there is no cost to the fund on this. This is allowing, and it's allowing local municipalities to decide whether they want to be in the program. The retiree has to decide whether they want to be in the program, and it sets a 3 or 4 or 5 year window, very similar to what we have with KBI and
Highway Patrol.
Highway Patrol. This would give a local option, so.
Thank you, Mr.
Did that
Chair.
answer your question?
Thank you.
Did I get that right? Okay. Any further questions on House Bill 2196? Senator Gossage?
I'm sorry, I was jumping ahead of you. I was ready to make a motion on the amendment that's on here.
Let's do it.
So I move that we pass the amendment for the Kansas Register.
Okay. Got an amendment on the Kansas Register. I'll second that. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. House Bill 2196 as amended. Is there a motion? Senator Gossage?
So moved.
Pass out favorably as amended for passage. Olson seconds. Any discussion? Senator Fagg?
I wanted to look at 21, can you give me a recap on 2196? That's on the drops program, right?
2196 is the drop program.
Couple comments on that. I go back, I'm not going to repeat myself. You got all the points on this. The only thing I might add in this area is that at one time when KP&F was set up, it was my understanding, it was like the firefighters at age 50 needed to have a better retirement program to go. And so as we go through that process, then we put the police on it. And now we're putting the drops on top of that so we can extend it. And so my point is, I go back to this enhancement. We just keep enhancing, and they expect this thing to be better. So I want to throw that out. Thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion? Senator Pittman?
I had thought something similar when I first looked at this, honestly, but now I see that it's a workforce retention. It's selective. It's not affecting the state. It's allowing municipalities and counties to keep the people, officers that they choose to, and the officers to have this. I think it's a good program, and I think we should have expanded it years ago, so I'm supportive of it. I do hear what you're saying, but I think this one is just a little different than the other ones that we're talking about.
This is voluntary from both the employee and the employer. So, Senator Gossage?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My understanding is that from visiting with some of the folks is that it's no different than if the individual had retired, start receiving their money. It's just they're going to be staying on, so they're not going to get their money right away. It's going to be put over in a fund, but they would have been receiving it anyway. It just allows them to stay on as if the employer would like for them to, and if they would like to, so they can have retention to replace or have somebody replace them. And since it's not costing any more to the state nor causing any more money out of the fund, unless I misunderstand.
Senator Fagg?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I understand that this was a pilot program. So did we ever have any review on the pilot program as to how effective it was and the kind of thing? The other thing, I'm thinking there is some kind of annual cost in this, and Alan might help us with that on this kind of thing. And also the total number of people that it would affect. I think we're going from, 550 to 7,100. I mean, that's how big a difference we're doing with this. So just a few comments.
We did have a pilot program. It started with the Highway Patrol. I think overall, I think the Highway Patrol felt it was pretty successful. The KBI then asked to be included. I think they felt it was pretty successful. And so this is a bill that it's extending it to local firefighters and police officers on a voluntary basis. Once again, the agency that they're employed by has to offer the program. The employee has to voluntarily enter into the program. Eileen?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The one thing I do want to add to the discussion is that the DRAP program is scheduled to expire on January 1st of 2025 because that was not amended to make it permanent.
Senator Cluse?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think the retention is what really speaks to me. The law enforcement, I have a lot of connections in that area, and I just feel that, and I understand Senator Fagg is saying, but I think this is a little bit different, so I'll be in support of it.
Okay. Any further discussion on 2196? Okay. Motion? I guess. All right, and we've adopted the amendment? All right. So all those in favor of House Bill 2196 as amended, say aye. Opposed, no.
No.
Do you wish to be recorded? Yes, sir. Okay. All right, let's look at 2284, which was adding fire districts for the purposes of COBRA. Anybody need a briefing on that one? Senator Gossage?
I don't need a briefing per se. I'm just trying to understand, as a health insurance agent, COBRA is for groups that have more than 20 employees. And so otherwise it's considered state continuance. So I'm just trying to understand, are we talking about state continuance here, or are we talking about COBRA? COBRA being a federal program.
We are talking about COBRA. When the original bill, my understanding, when the original bill was passed, fire districts were inadvertently omitted. Mm-hmm. And so this is cleaning that up because we have county fire district or county fire departments, we have municipal, and we also have fire districts. And for some reason, fire districts were left out. So this is adding them back in.
I see. Thank you.
Senator Warren?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. When was the left out? You said when the bill was passed. How long ago was that? Thank you. Appreciate it.
Any other questions or discussions on 2284? Okay, what's the committee's pleasure on 2284? Senator Dietrich?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that we pass out House Bill 2284. We did not amend that, right? You don't want that amended, right?
Let's put the amendment on. Let's do it.
Okay, as amended.
Well,
Oh, you need to amend it
amendment
first.
on
Oh, sorry. I move the amendment. You want to change it to the register.
Is there a second on the amendment? Olson seconds. Any discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Okay, the amendment is adopted. What's the committee's pleasure on 2284 as amended?
Now,
Senator Dietrich.
Take that motion.
You may.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that we pass out House Bill 2284 as amended favorably for passage.
Is there a second? Gossage seconds. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, we have 5 minutes left. Let's do 2285. Updating certain statutory references in Chapter 40 of the statute book. Anybody need a reminder on this? This was kind of a insurance cleanup. Pretty simple. We had a Senate bill passed, I think unanimously. This passed by a very wide margin in the House. Anybody? I do have an amendment on this to change it to the register, and I would move that amendment. Gossage seconds. Any discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. What's the committee's pleasure on House Bill 2285 as amended? Senator Gossage.
Mr. Chair, I move that we pass House Bill number 2285 as amended favorably for passage.
For a second? Olson seconds. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Committee, that completes our work for the day. Tomorrow, we will hear House Bill 2197, which is some changes to the first-time home buyer savings account that we established last year. And then if the committee feels like it's not controversial and you would like to work it tomorrow, then we will work it tomorrow, which means that we will then not have anything to do for the rest of the time, and you'll have your 9:30 time slot free. If we need to, for the rest of the session. So, any additional items to come before the committee? All right, seeing none, we're adjourned.